0, 1 absent. Conference with legal counsel. Anticipated litigation. Mr. Knaxat motion. Mr. Alexander second, and the board approved the claim 623945 by the following vote of 5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Mr. Porter was a no on that, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Ms. Bell motion, Mr. Knaxat second, that the board approve claim 623946 by the following vote of 5, 1 absent. Again, Mr. Porter was a no. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Ms. McFarland motion, Ms. Alexander second. The board approved OAH 2023-06-0746 by the following vote of 6-0 and 1 absent. That concludes our closed session items. Thank you. We have a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing. California School Employees Association reopener for the 2023-26 successor agreement. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? I declare this public hearing closed. Public hearing, Lodi Unified Supervisory Group reopens for 2023-24 year. Any board comments? Public comments? I declare this public hearing closed. All right, we have the superintendent's report. Mr. Young.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, I'd like to share with you I had a great opportunity on July 1st to attend the closing ceremonies at UOP, celebrating the success of our second year for our high school students to participate in the UOP summer program. Had a chance to visit the Dave Brubeck Music and Arts Center, listen to musicians playing jazz. It was wonderful, as well as salsa. Had a chance to visit a sports analytics program, and in sports, analytics have become a big deal, and that is an opportunity provided students. We also had a chance to witness firsthand coding in drones, seeing students develop flight patterns and build those drones, which was a wonderful opportunity. Had a chance to see parents competing against each other in 2 different rooms with esports, and their children had a chance to, well, they're not children, they're young adults, and high school students had a chance to teach them how to utilize the esports, and they had a chance to compete with each other, including prizes and different UOP swag. Sat in on a poetry reading with some of our students, had a chance to talk with students from Lodi Unified, had a chance to talk with parents from Lodi Unified School District, and we received a great welcome and thank you from the UOP faculty, from the president on down. They appreciate our partnership and our leadership in that, and I will say it was a strange moment for me because they asked me, and what is your title? And I started by saying the Associate Successor Super. I went, wait, it's July 1st.
July 1st.
I guess that means I'm the superintendent.
Right.
So it was a great culmination of the program, and I must say it was a wonderful opportunity. UOP is a great partner right down to the south of Lodi Unified School District. The opportunities for our students are great, and I would just close by saying, if you could have seen the faculty of UOP, and we're talking professors who were exhausted yet had the time of their life, and just spoke so highly of this great partnership. It was wonderful to be a part of. So I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young, for your report. I have no cards, Michelle. Do you have any cards?
One.
Well, let me have that, please, so we can read this comment. The speaker, please state their first and last name before starting. A 20-minute period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The board cannot engage in dialogue about public comments because of restrictions placed by the California Brown Act. We have Lana Gentry.
Yes. Good evening. My name's Lana Gentry from Bear Creek High School, and I just made it because I went to the district and I was sitting there in my car going, oh, no one's here yet, catching up on my emails.
What's your name?
I made it. So here we are. I'm here to talk about AP Psychology and the AP courses in general. And this is coming off of the June meeting about the I think it's the name redesignation committee, that discussion. And AP Psychology has been challenged due to some of their topics, especially by Florida. And so I just wanted to let you know what the College Board and the American Psychological Association said about those challenges. And so it's a concern if parents want to challenge that in the textbook. Quote from the American Psychological Association: understanding human sexuality is fundamental to psychology, and an advanced placement course that excludes the decades of science studying sexual orientation and gender identity would deprive students of knowledge they will need to succeed in their studies in high school and beyond. The College Board has said, our youth need access to age-appropriate, evidence-based information regarding sexual orientation and gender identity so they may grow up to be healthy, informed, and well-adjusted citizens. They further went on and said they will not modify any of the AP Psychology curriculum. They had to make their press release due to the challenges of Florida, but they will not modify any curriculum in all 40 AP classes that they have because they're based on college level courses. It's supposed to be a college level class. And if any state or district removes content and says not all parts of the textbook can be taught, they will lose their AP designation. So at this moment, Florida is deciding whether or not they will offer AP Psychology. And if they remove and do not cover everything, it will not be considered an AP class. So just want to let you know on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, just real briefly.
Yes.
You've given direction on board policy, specifically the Rule 1312.2. Librarians and some at the central office have been on vacation, so no meeting has occurred as of yet, but that meeting will still be occurring. So I just wanted to give that update.
Thank you for your report. Public comments on consent agenda A. The public and student representatives may address the board on consent agenda A, routine business. Each public speaker shall limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on consent agenda A? Being nobody, then the board, do you have any items that want to be pulled by the board?
A1.
A1 by Mr. Porter. Anybody else? All right.
Mr. Nava, I move we approve consent agenda A except for A1.
Been moved by Mr. Knaxat. We approve consent agenda A except number 1. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Second by Ms. Ball. We have no students, so let's have a board vote, please. Motion carries 6-0, 1 absent. Oops. Yes, thank you. Mr. Porter, A1.
Yeah, could we pull up A1?
A1,
There's a subpart that I want to.
Mr. Khan.
I believe it was A13, I think it is.
That's Mr. Sally, Dr. Sally, number 3.
Can we pull it up? Trying to. contract list. There we
You have a question on that, Mr. Porter?
Yeah, I wanted to, let me open it up. It's not letting me open up. I'll look at yours, thank you. I had a couple questions. A13, agreement with the Table Community Foundation to provide support services to after-school programs at various Lodi Unified School District sites for the 23-24 school year. What, I'm not aware of what the Table Community Foundation is.
President Nova, members of the board, Superintendent Young, the Table Foundation is one of our partners that serves our after-school programs, our bridge programs. The YMCA is one, City of Lodi is one, and the Table Foundation, which serves schools in the North Stockton area. And they're one of our partners to provide the 180 days of after-school support.
So exactly, what are they? Who's in charge of, what do they provide? It's $1 million.
They hire staff, coordinators for the program for these sites, as well as the staff members that provide the oversight of the programs. It's a 3-hour program. There's an academic hour, a physical hour, and then an enrichment hour. We do hire Lodi teachers that wish to work in the academic hour and provide tutoring support as well. These staff members, as well as at the other programs, YMCA and such, orchestrate and run the program for supervision of students and provision of.
So this is an academic intervention?
There is 1 hour that's called the academic hour, and then they have an enrichment hour, which can be academic.
Right. When you say enrichment hour and you say can be academic, what would take that place? Sorry, Tom.
Well, enrichment could mean arts, it could mean mathematics support, it could mean STEM, it could mean physical
And
fitness.
these people that are part of the table, are they credentialed?
No, these are not credentialed
Are
employees.
they specific to what's being required for the intervention? So like we have reading people for intervention?
For the academic hour, we do also obtain support from credentialed staff to provide tutoring and support in that area. The Table Foundation employees are not certificated.
Okay, so we open this up to teachers, is that correct?
Yes, there are teachers working.
And then we backfill it with the people from Table Community.
Yes.
So, Mr. Porter, members of the board, the ACES program, the way Prop 49 was set up originally and continues to be, you have 2 sets of staff. One, we have our current employees who can provide academic supports,
Right.
and they can supply enrichment activities as well.
Right.
We also have CSEA members. One is a contracted employee who works 5 days a week, 2 hours. And we also have other CSEA paraeducators who provide either academic or enrichment supports. The way the grant is set up, you also have community-based organizations who provide the staffing to maintain the required 1-to-20 ratio. This specifically is one of the organizations that will be providing that 1-to-20 ratio, which is separate from the activities that our teaching staffs and our classified employees provide.
What type of things are we can you clarify that last statement for me? What are you talking about in specific?
Sure. So students arrive immediately after school. We know that teachers...
No, for the table. What would the table provide to the teachers?
They will provide the 1-to-20 ratio from the minute that students arrive, which is the minute the bell rings at the end of the day, until 6 p.m. when parents pick them up. They provide the grade level groupings of students together. They help get students from point A to point B. They'll be out, for example, on the field playing a game of soccer at the end of the day.
Right.
But they are part of the grant, and that service is built into the grant to work with community-based organizations to provide that support.
My last question, what do we pay our teachers, and then what do we pay? And then Table takes care of the payment of their employees?
Correct. Table is responsible for paying their employees, hiring their employees, and they collaborate with Jose Maciel and his team as far as training
Right.
Of how we do things.
Okay.
The collective bargaining agreement is what dictates the hourly rate for the teachers as well as the classified employees.
Okay, very good. That's great. What's the liability? Are we responsible for Table on that? I mean, we're bringing them in. Do we cover them, or are they covered through the Table community?
I mean, we're the district, and so there is always a level of liability,
Over the
but
village pockets, yeah.
as Mr. Khan could point out, we have expectations for all of our community-based organizations and our vendors. They have to meet the liability insurance requirements as well as the child molestation requirements
Okay.
in order to work with our schools.
I just
So
wanted to get a better.
that is built into the vendor contracts.
Okay, thank you. And then I think I had one more question on number 4, was the agreement with the University Pacific. How many students actually attended?
For this past year, it was just around, I don't have the exact number, but somewhere near 450.
Oh, great.
And this contract on the list tonight is for another 454, to be
Outstanding.
specific.
Yeah.
And
Now,
this
is that a lottery based?
No, it's not a lottery based. It is, we do get applications out early, as in midwinter, January and earlier. And we continue to take applications through March, April. Generally, they're full around April, and it's somewhat of a first come, first serve, but not exclusively. But hasn't been a lottery. We've
So-
never capped or totally filled up. And
Oh, you've never filled the total.
we've had late situations where a student couldn't attend, and we quick replaced them.
Quick replacement.
But we haven't really had a long
Yeah, I
waiting
was
list.
just wondering what you did if you have an overflow of
Uh,
applicants.
Yeah, we haven't had an overflow per se. We
That's
have
a great
had
program.
last minute switches.
Yeah, it's a great program, so thank you. I was just curious. Thank you very much. Motion to approve?
Been motioned by Mr. Ford to approve A1 in routine agenda A. May I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McFarland. Board vote, please. Motion carries 6-0, absent. We go to consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Motion to approve.
Been moved by Ms. McFarland to approve,
Second.
second by Mr. Conexet. Board vote, please. Motion's carried, 6-0, absent. Other items. Item OAI 1, approval of state school bond bill support assembly 247. The transitional kindergarten through community college public education facility bond act of 24. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young. We're asking that the board support this effort by the CASH organization, the Coalition for Adequate School Housing, to get another bond on the state's ballots. I'll remind the board that at least in one instance, your Lodi High project, the board is in line for a $14 million match, but there is no available state bond money to provide that money. So.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Any board member comments?
Motion to approve?
Any public comments? Okay.
My question is this a LUSD bond that we're gonna have local voters?
No.
Or a state bond and then we
I'll
do the
let
matching
Mr. Khan
funds?
explain it to you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young. It is a state level bond
Thank you.
support.
Thank you.
President Nava, members of the board, Superintendent Young. I just want to let you know that I am part of a lobbying arm of the California Teachers Association, and I actually met with the bill's author, Senator Marisucci, or Assemblymember Marisucci, I can never say his name right. But anyway, about this and several other bills that he has written and or sponsored regarding education. And I highly recommend that we support this bill and hope to continue to do some of that lobbying work to get more funding for public schools.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Porter,
Second.
second by Ms. Alexander. Let's have a board vote, please. Motion carries 6-0, 1 absent. Personnel matters, Dr. Dostie.
President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young, routine personnel matters are available for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. McFarland.
Question?
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Knaxet. Question by Mr. Porter.
How many of these are interns? Teachers?
I don't have that information on hand, I can provide it for each one.
Thank you very much.
Board vote. Motion carries 6-0, 1 absent. Reports. Mr. Young, zero cost medical insurance plan.
Yes, Mr. Nava, members of the board, before you this evening is a report to look at what it would be to provide a cap that is equal to the lowest cost medical plan for a single, for the employee. And so Edith Holbert and Adina Andrus were kind enough to do some of the legwork behind the scenes to gather information for you, and I've asked them to be here this evening to share and provide you this information. Again, this is not a report that says you shall take this medical plan, but it is establishing a cap equal to the lowest single plan, which is the Western Advantage plan. They will be sharing with you the costs associated with it, and looking at some of the historical data as well. So I will hand this over to Edith and to Adina.
Hello, good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young. Tonight, for your consideration, we're going to present the zero cost medical plan proposal for all contracted employees. Next slide, please. So under the current, this first slide, it shows what is available under the current contractual agreements as a zero cost medical plan.
Okay.
Next slide, please. And then the proposal that we will do a deep dive into in the next following slides, this is what would be a zero cost medical plan under the proposal. And we selected for our analysis the least expensive option under the single tier, and that is the Western Advantage Health at $760 a month. And next slide, thank you. So there is a caveat that we want to share with the Western Advantage, and that is that it services only, like, it's in Sacramento, so the employees would have to drive to a Sacramento provider. So for your consideration, then we also took a look at the fiscal impact at the 4 least expensive options, the next least expensive options. So under Western Health Advantage, again, that's at that $760 a month, it would be $1.4 million. And then the cost just escalates as we move further down the other least expensive options that are available.
And I just want to jump in here, and that amount that we're talking about is a cap equal to. It is not that the employee would have to take Western Advantage. That is the lowest cost plan, and so the cap would be equal to that. They could still take another plan, but the cost that would be provided by the district would be equal to the lowest cost plan, which meets the Affordable Care Act requirements.
Thank you.
Next slide here in just a second. Okay, we'll just keep going. So good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young. The next few slides are really going to talk about some historical trends within the district. So the first one we're looking at is the demographic trends, specifically between the student enrollment from 2009-10 to current, and what that's looked like historically. Also, we have the actual staff FTEs from the same time period, 2009-10 to current. This represents the actual numbers of FTE paid from the October timeframe. So all of these numbers are from the October CBEDS CalPAD states. And then the final graph below is the budgeted staff FTEs. So that's the number of FTEs that were included in the budget for the same time frame, 2009-10 to present. Okay, next slide, please. This next slide is what I like to call the piece of the pie slide. On the left-hand side, you have the 9-10 total compensation, and each of the bargaining groups and unrepresentative groups, they're basically slice of that compensation amount. And then on the right-hand side, you have the 2021-22 compensations amount. So you can see how that may have changed minimally over time. Next slide, please. This graph represents the exact same data, but it gives you the hard numbers per each of the groups. It's the compensation based on regular or salary schedule pay, other and stipend, and then the health and welfare, broken out for each group, their percentage, and then the representative amount for 2021-22. I would like to make one note, and that is on the LUSDA. That 6.63% was after the reduction of staff members. I believe it was 6 curriculum coordinator positions. The board was able to take immediate action during those times, and so that's the only difference, kind of the apple for apple look between the LUSDA and the rest of the groups, where their reductions actually started showing up in the following years. Okay, next slide. And the next couple of slides are just a visual representation of each of the bargaining groups, their total compensation, and how they stack up between the salary schedule, benefits, and other benefits. So we have the health and welfare in green, other in gray, and then the regular in purple. So we have LEA, CSEA. Next slide, please. Supervisors, LPPA. Next slide, please. LUSDA and confidential. Next slide. This slide represents the benefit compensation trends. So you'll notice there is a green bar in the middle. That is the contracted amount for LEA. It's $10,136 a year. Each of the other bar graphs are a count of the number of employees who receive the listed amount there at the bottom. So it ranges from 1907 all the way up to 22,916. So the number at the top, for example, you have 254 at the $18,624 per year amount.
And if I could interject here, board, that's because there are MOUs that are established with our collectively bargained group. You have the budgeted amount for health benefits at the beginning of the year, and then the actual expenses by the end of the year. And LEA, CSEA, LUSG, LPPA, they take that ending fund balance, and then the following year, in different ways, it gets put towards benefit caps. So even though you see the green line there, you'll see a number of employees who only take the dental and vision, and that's the 417, whereas you have a number of people who actually have a greater amount of benefit, greater than the cap that has been established through bargaining. And the same as with the other groups.
Yes, so we have LEA, and then the next slide, we have the same representation for CSEA. And I do want to point out that the bar graph of the 800, that 1920 is per year, and that is members who take the in lieu cash monthly payment versus actually taking health benefits. Next slide. I'll turn it back over to Adina.
Okay, and then we're going to bring it back with some fiscal impact. So we borrowed this from the school services slide back in January. And it's, our funded ADA. So yes, the 8.22% is applied on our funded ADA. However, we continue to be in declining enrollment. And the 3-year rolling average that the legislature approved last year, slowly, we're starting to see that slowly dwindle away. So although the COLA is funded at 8.22%, when we're looking at the dollar amounts, it's really an increase of 12.6 million. So before we look at the fiscal impact of this proposal, that brings us to a 4.87% increase on dollars. After the 1.4, using the 760, the least expensive plan, then that brings us down to 4.3% increase. And we also have some other analysis we wanted to share. You want to? Go for it.
Sure. So at the bottom, we have some information regarding the excess sick leave days that are earned by the LUSTA member. They total 6 days per year. And the red graph on the right-hand side represents the penalties that the district pays when an employee retires because of those excess sick leave days. And those excess sick leave days can vary depending on the administrator and how many they have used throughout their career or have not used in the case of the penalties.
And if I could add, board, why we included that there is because that is something that LUSDA receives. It's gone back to the 90s. We can't find the exact time. Why we use 910 is because that's when we started using QSS. So we can track that data. Prior to that, it's more difficult. But that is something dating back to year-round days when administrators worked year-round and they had those excess sick leave days. So if you were to consider creating a cap and you were to have an interest in us bringing this back as an action item, this is, although it's not a budgeted amount, it's an actual expense. And as people accrue those sick leave days and they retire at a higher amount, they end up ultimately, that goes towards their STRS retirement or PERS retirement if they're a classified manager. And by eliminating that, there would be a cost savings that would mitigate some of the cost of adding LUSDA, the administrators, to a benefits cap. So we put that there. It would in fact require the board to take action on their board policy because it is actually written in the policy, and that would have to be changed to reflect the statutory amount, which is a 1 day per month. So we felt it was important to include that information in there.
Any questions?
Any questions, board?
I have one.
Mr. Connexa.
It's somewhat confusing, but one of my questions is, how does this affect the employees or the other members in bargaining groups that do not take this no cost insurance? Is that going to increase their insurance premiums?
Yeah, Mr. Knackstead, so there are reasons why an employee may not take the benefits. And so let me just use Leah because we showed that graph. There are Leah members who, because of spouse, someone else has insurance. So we as a district have a responsibility to budget for each employee. The expense falls out on the backside of it if an employee doesn't take the benefit. So let's just say the Western Advantage, if they didn't take any benefit, a person who has budgeted that amount of money, it falls out at the end of the year, and that's where the bargaining groups then take that amount of money and place it back in the following year's benefits caps, and they move some of that information around. But we would have to budget for every employee, even though the expense may not occur at the end of the year because they have insurance through someone else. But each member would, in fact, every employee, contracted employee within the district would have a benefits cap to cover, medical costs.
Okay, so I guess I didn't quite understand. Will it cost Joe Blow, freshman English teacher, more money for his health benefits if the district offers this no-cost plan?
No.
Okay. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Ms. McFarland?
When you say every employee, every full-time employee or every employee?
Thank you. This is the cap for a full-time employee. So for a classified employee, full-time would be an 8-hour job, and based on the percentage of FTE, it would be the same. So it's for a full-time employee. But again, this is a cap amount. It doesn't require that they take that insurance. They still have a right to choose a different plan, even though there may be a cost attributed to a different plan. Or if it's for the entire family, they would have to pick up the additional cost for the family. But this is to provide each employee at least one plan and a cap that would fund that plan.
Any other questions by the board?
I have a quick
Ms.
question.
Bell?
And this is purely out of curiosity. This Western Advantage Health Plan, the district is willing to pay for the premium of each employee, right? Not for the deductibles and co-pays and all of that. It's just the basic monthly premium.
Yes, that is correct.
And does this plan have deductibles and co-pays?
Yes.
Then the rest of them have probably higher deductibles and co-pays.
I don't have in front of me the information about
It varies.
doctor visits, for x-rays, for durable medical.
Urgent care?
Each has a different cost attributed. Generally, the lower the cost, the higher the other fees would be. But that, I don't have all of that information. Sometimes it's just because there's a limit of doctors in that who work under, say, Western Advantage, and that could be a limiting factor. But the cap is the premium amount, and none of those additional pieces that would be on the employee, which is consistent with all of our plans.
Any other questions by the board?
Mr. Nava?
Yes, Mr. Porter?
Yeah, I got a slew of questions, I hope.
As long as they're pertinent. it's good.
Okay, well, you'll cut me off if I'm not.
No, I won't cut you off. I'll let you ask the questions. Pertinent.
All right, Western Health Advantage is not in our county, is that correct?
Correct, Sacramento County.
Sacramento County. It covers El Dorado, Placer, Yolo, Calusas, Llano. They have no hospitals in our area as well, is that correct? I believe they're in Folsom and El Dorado.
I believe they cover Sacramento County. I can't confirm.
Okay. Now, when you look at this slides that you put together, thank you for all your work. There seems to be a couple of things that are going on that I was trying to decipher, and I think you did a great job of this. And I want to go back to, I spent a lot of time on this, and I was in the same wedding party as the CEO of Western Advantage, so I know Gary Mizell fairly well. So it's kind of interesting. Initially, LEA does offer a Western Advantage. Is that correct?
Oh, okay, so the very first slide.
Right, you do offer. Is that correct?
So that plan is offered to all employees to select.
Right, so that's offered to everybody under contractual agreements.
Yes, it's offered, and the employee can select which.
So we're already technically offering.
Offer at zero cost, yes.
Okay, so that's one thing taken care of. Okay, we'll get that off the plate. Now, the next thing is you say zero-cost medical plans, and then you go into Blue Shield Trio, PERS Gold, and then Western Advantage. Of course, they have various amounts, is that correct?
Yes.
But to us, they're still LEA contracted. Okay, that's just for the teachers, is that correct?
So it's a zero cost, like should an LEA member select a single plan, it would be zero cost to that employee.
So we offer it
Under current, yes.
Yeah, but it's under LEA contract, none of the other programs have.
Yes.
Okay, so I figured that. Okay, we're
Sorry,
good.
can I clarify? So not that they don't have it, they have the option, but it doesn't come at a zero cost to the
Right.
employee.
So your proposal is to offer it to everybody across the board,
A zero.
Western Health Advantage,
Yes.
which we've already found out doesn't really serve our area.
Oh, sorry, can I clarify?
Go ahead.
Okay, so moving on from slide 1 to slide 2. So now that we would offer Western, we used Western Health Advantage because it's the least expensive out of all the options. So it's that $760 a month. That would be each full-time employee, and it'll be prorated.
$7,900, something like that.
Mhm. So that they, the employee, would be able to select any plan they would want, but should the plan be, which they all are, above 760, the employee would have to pay out of pocket.
Okay.
So the employee would get, and I hope I'm not, would get the benefit of the 760 to each, per any plan.
But they gotta apply it to something else.
They can apply it to a different plan.
Right, if they wanted to go to first platinum or whatever.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I got what you're saying so far. But
Okay.
again, this is a Sacramento choice.
Okay.
Sacramento County.
Mainly in
Can I,
emphasis.
can I use an example? Is it okay?
I
just-
can, but I looked up Sutter, for example, which a lot of teachers use,
Mhm.
and this is not a part of their plan. Oh,
Okay.
taking insurance.
Okay, so it would, so let's say an employee, under this proposal, so under the slide that says under proposal, perfect. Under the proposal, if an employee were to select, let's say, I'll just use an example, PERS Gold PPO, and it's 825,
Right.
then under this proposal, the employee would get the benefit of a district-paid contribution of 760.
I got you.
Oh, okay, okay.
I got
Okay.
that. So you were doing a cap at 760 based on Western Advantage.
Yes, correct.
All right, so you're using that as your cost line.
Yes,
Okay, very
absolutely.
good. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to,
Okay, no, I appreciate
trying
it.
to figure this out, make sure I
Okay.
understand.
Okay,
So we're doing good here. Zero cost medical plan, fiscal impact. Very good, thank you. Now, we get down to demographic trends, fascinating stuff. I love this. Our teachers are at 1445 for this year, right? And they actually had a % change. But lo and behold, our LUSDA, our administrators went up. Isn't that awesome? And our CSEA went up. In fact, the only other group to go down was confidential for this year.
That is a % change over the full from 2009-10 to
Good
current,
to know.
so yes.
But it's interesting because we've lost students, as you said, right?
Yes, we have.
2,000 students, but we've gained administrators, CSCA, and all other groups.
If I could interject, we've got two different tables. You've
No,
got the actual versus the
I'm
budgeted.
coming to it.
Oh, okay, got it.
I know where you're headed here. So the budgeted
Glad
area
someone does.
is where we expect people to be. And we don't have them, but we budget for them. Is that in the budget, stays in the budget?
yes.
Yes, it
That's
does.
money we never really touch, is it?
Correct.
Interesting.
Well, there are other things that may, like substitutes and
No, I
costs like
understand, you
that.
gotta
that
draw
may
off that to do
impact.
that, I
Yes,
get that. But it looks like we're 478 people short in CSCA. Is that correct?
yes.
Oh, and 100 teachers roughly, and 26 administrators.
Yes. Between FTEs and actual paid,
Yeah.
yes.
Interesting. Now, I believe there's a rule where you could only have one administrator per 100 teachers, is that correct? SB something or other? Senate Bill something? I was
I'm
just
asking a
checking.
friend.
Does that have to do with the medical thing?
Well, it does with their demographics.
Okay, just ask a question.
All right, keep going. Now, as we move along, we notice that the teachers are drawing less off of your pie chart. Is that correct? From 2009 to 2021, in terms of compensation.
In relation to the other groups, correct.
Yes.
Just
So they're
also
different.
note, if I may, that the pie was slightly over 177 million in 2009-10, and it was just over 241 million
Right.
in 21-22.
Okay,
So it's a much larger pie.
the gist of this whole thing is to show a baseline for all employee groups that we'd like to offer. Awesome. And it looks like LU, SDAA, or whatever they're called themselves, LESDA, they are the main beneficiaries of this. Is that correct?
Can you define main beneficiary?
Well, they right now don't have any, they have a very minor cap, is that correct?
Okay, yes, then if that's beneficiary, then yes, they would
And
be.
then they would be the main ones that benefit from this, because they'd go up to $7,000. $7,900, excuse me.
Yes,
So in looking at this whole chart, we're getting a cap, love it, and we're also taking care of the administrators. Now, I have to ask a question. When we do COLA, is that on total compensation? That includes your health care? Or is it just on salary?
Can I?
if you look back at last year, the reason we put the 5.87 is because it was a 5.07 increase to salary, but the 0.8, whatever the 0.80, that was the part that was added in other areas. And each group negotiated what they did with that money as far as that .8.
That's not answering my question. I'm asking, is COLA based on total compensation?
So COLA is applied to the salary schedule.
No,
and so-
I'm asking, when the state decides COLA, is it based on employees' total compensation?
So that's the funding mechanism coming in, but you mean when a
When
negotiation
they say
happens?
cost of living adjustment, is that based on your total package or salary?
Oh, that's. So yeah,
So last year, the 5.07 that this was showing was compensation.
So
Was
our
not
whole-
total compensation. That did not include health benefits as part of that increase.
Okay, so that answers my question. So then getting back to that, LESDA, which had their benefits years ago put on, has been benefiting from COLA for many, many years. Now we're gonna pull 6 days from, I get it, because we have to pay it, but we're still gonna have to pay for a long time for what they've accrued. Only starting this year, that will be reduced. Does that make sense?
yes,
So it only starts this year, that savings you're showing.
understood.
We're still gonna have to pay anyway for people that retire and
Yes.
move on. And how many years do you think that could take, 10?
Yes.
20? Okay, so there were things going on here that I tried to decipher, and I loved your stuff. Good data, it was great to go through. And I like the idea of what we're doing here. I do see one group, though, benefiting more than others. And that troubles me. It troubles me a lot. And I think the 6 days, great start. But there are other areas we need to look at in terms of our admin, because they've been benefiting for a long time based on how we do COLA. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you for your questions. Okay, thank you very much for your report. Excellent report, okay?
Yes, very good.
Appreciate that. And by the way, the next time we come, this will be on the agenda for a vote by the board.
Yes, I just want to make sure two things. One, public has an opportunity to give input.
Yes.
And then secondly, I would need to seek direction from the board as to whether or not we bring this back as an action item.
Yeah, my understanding is the board has to give direction on that, Mr. Nava,
Yes, yes, we
for it
do.
to move forward.
All right, may I have any comments from the public, please?
Mr. Nava and Ford and Mr. Young. I just kind of came to kind of understand all of this that we got.
Yeah. Would you please state your name?
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
my name is Erin Smith. So I was just coming to try to understand this. And I talked to you last year. This gets so emotional. My insurance went from $600 a month to $1,000 a month because of the mistake, and we had to pay it back. So I'm into insurance, 10 grand. And now you're telling me my cap's gonna get lower, so now I'm gonna be even more into insurance. It is because the LEA gets more than $700 and something a month.
Yeah, let me make sure to clarify this. This is not to decrease the amount that LEA has as a cap. This is to bring other groups up to the minimum amount. So there is no decrease to what was negotiated with LEA.
Okay, so then if that's the case then, so there could possibly be a better insurance plan that's local, that's in the county, that might work for people who live in Stockton and Lodi and Manteca, that work for your district, where it might be more substantial than taking us to Western Health up in Sacramento, El Dorado. That's all. I just don't understand why a district, when we're based in Lodi and Stockton, would go to Sacramento County for healthcare. Because if it's a really good deal, I don't know why we wouldn't find something local. That's all. It's just frustrating.
Thank you.
President Nava, members of the board, Superintendent Young. Wow, lots of issues. First of all, I have, in my leadership roles with LEA, have been on the negotiating committee with figuring out healthcare caps and things like that. So if you look at demographics, okay, yes, our #1 health plan for our employees is Kaiser. But if you look at the 3 that were chosen because they quote unquote fit under the cap, the Blue Shield Trio HMO, the PERS Gold HMO, and the Western Health Advantage. Out of over 1,400 members, I can tell you that there are less than 200, and I would actually even say it's probably closer to 100 of my members who are on those plans. And why is that? Because they suck. Even people who are on Western Health, I get phone calls saying, I can't get a primary care physician. Okay? I can't get it. Because the way this HMO works is they... bargaining table, which you guys have not done. When LEA finally gets to the bargaining table and whatever raise we end up getting from COLA, oh, he's going to get that 3% plus whatever we get, because that's what happens. It's always this me too, me too, me too crap. It's not going to be what we get minus the 3% he's guaranteed. Okay? I would love my people to have a guaranteed 3% every year with the option to negotiate for more. That's not been offered. We can't even get to the bargaining table. That's not even start there. And the other thing that I find with this is bargaining outside of the table.
Yeah.
Outside of the table.
Mrs. Wilkins, you've gone beyond the 3 minutes been allotted. Please let the next person speak. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Nava, Mr. Young, Desiree Wise with CSEA. Just a couple things that I wanted to point out, and I know we do have some new board members that are with us now, but Lisa is right. The administrators, and not only the administrators, the confidential group as well, are currently have their cap dollars on their salary. And according to the salary schedules that have been published on the district's website, Lodi Unified is choosing to spin the narrative that confidential and LESDA do not currently have a cap amount, and that is entirely false. It has always been printed on the bottom of their salary schedules what their cap amount was. And a year or so ago, that disappeared. So of course that's telling the world that there's no cap amount on that salary, and there is. I'm very frank, I'm very straightforward, I don't beat around the bush. They've been receiving COLA on total compensation since 2005. Confidential got a raise in their cap back in 2013. So if they don't have a cap, how do they get a raise to it?
I understand that there is, problems in hiring administrators. I'm not discrediting that, but it is frustrating at the way that you guys are choosing to go about it. Healthcare has been a problem for a long time, and CSEA's had to get creative on how to help our members. So when you see that in lieu number, there's a lot of people that take the rebate that we've been able to create with the extra pool of money that was left over from the previous year. We were leaving roughly $4 million on the table. So we were able to take that pool of money and be creative and offer our members currently for an 8-hour person, the district's cap is $702 roughly. I might be off a little bit. And with our pool of money, we're able to give our people another $189. So right now, we have people getting health care for free under the cap amount. Right now. You can be a single person and get Kaiser for nothing. So I do agree with Mr. Porter's sentiments that yes, there are other groups that are making out for this. And all the while CSEA was fighting and trying to get money on our COLA, because it was always, okay, COLA's 5%, well then we can put we'll put 2% over here on health and welfare. CSEA quit putting the money on the cap because nobody takes the insurance because it's too expensive. So I understand, Mr. Nava, you want to give direction, you want this to come back as an action item, but this is all bargainable. Our group has to agree to this. Every group has to agree to this. And I just think the way that you're going about it isn't getting us on your side at all. And my first question is what's going to happen to our MOU with our pool of money? Because not only are we able and have the pool of money, but we're also able to corroborate caps if you have a spouse that works here. And that's all in the MOU. So what would happen to that? No response.
Thank you for your comments.
No response?
I have no response because this is about the cap and not about the MOUs that are agreed.
But that'll all play a part in it. That's all affected though, Mr. Young.
Bargaining.
I won't go into those details. I have nothing to share with that.
Good evening, President Nava, Mr. Boards, and Mr. Young. My name is Chris Beach. So with going with this zero cost option, I hope you like missing employees, because I can guarantee you instead of taking an hour off to go to my doctor's appointment, I'm going to take the whole day. That's traffic. Same thing for all the students and any employee who has a child receiving the health insurance here. You're going to miss money on your ADA because that child will not be in that chair to get you your money. A lot of these are talking about total comp, you've heard. CSEA has only had total comp once. One time. If we had gotten total comp on the last negotiations, we'd have even more options that are free right now. We have an option that's $5 out of pocket right now. That would be free if we had gotten COLA on total comp. As far as the using COLA money to try and fund that, we already have positions that are below minimum wage on the salary schedule. We need every penny of COLA money to get that up. To take money away from that says you don't care that those positions stay below minimum wage. And as far as our leftover money every year on the cap, that does not belong to the district. That belongs to the bargaining units. When we negotiated a percentage from the district, if I negotiated $5 and I chose to put $2 on my health care, at the end of the year, that $2 did not get used. You don't get to keep my $2 that I put in there. That belongs to us. To try and take it would be theft. So you may have some of the information, you do not have all of the information. You've already heard about the groups who already have been receiving huge benefits. Now, unless you want to consider putting everybody's COLA or medical caps onto their pay, going all the way back so that they're all equal, maybe that's something we can talk about. I don't think you got the money for it, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lana Gentry again. I don't know, and it might be a misunderstanding, if the Western Advantage plan was just being used as a comparison, a minimum, but we need to have a comparison minimum zero cost in San Joaquin County. I mean, I'm not driving to Sacramento to see a doctor unless it's a specialist, and so there has to be a zero on that one. You need a Kaiser, you need a Blue Cross HMO, and then obviously we're covering employees that commute a lot. So that, if I don't have that information, I would like that looked into. Mr. Young, we saw in June your compensation package and your raises that are guaranteed and all that, and funding when you get your doctorate. And so teachers are looking at that, and there's a little bit of grumbling because of the automatic COLA payments that we have to fight for versus have it given to us. And we pay to get our doctorates, etc. These cannot be an action item unless you want to say action item to look into it, because these are all bargaining items. And I know we can't find administrators due to the lack of an insurance plan, because I know of one that chose to go elsewhere because there's no insurance and their spouse didn't have insurance. But it also affects us getting teachers. I pay $1,200 a month. I need to have that PPO due to health conditions in my family, but there's no way a young family could afford that and still work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Young, we need some direction on this, bargaining, all these kinds of things.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, we cannot enact anything for a collectively bargained group.
Yes.
The action, if this were to come back as action, and you were to consider establishing a cap, you can enact that for the only two groups that are not collectively bargained. It would be the responsibility of the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel, if the direction is given to the board, to go back to those groups that have less than a cap equal to the $760 a month, and it would be something that would have to be bargained. So that's just collective bargaining. It wouldn't be enacted without negotiations. But what we're seeking is direction from the board, whether or not you want us to return to you and have you consider establishing, and again, this is important, a cap equal to the $760. It does not require that the member take the Western Advantage. It's just picking the lowest cost plan and establishing a cap equal to that. So employees that are full-time would have essentially a cap equal to taking that Western Advantage. There is no doubt, it is in Sacramento, there are certain challenges to it, but it's selecting a plan, the lowest cost plan, and establishing a cap equal to it. We provided you the other information so you could see the additional cost if the board has interest in looking at a plan that has a greater cost than the Western Advantage, the $760 per month. We tried to provide that so you understood the financial implications for groups that don't already have that zero cap. I mean, LEA is the one group that has 3 different caps that are zero cost for an individual. And there would be a cost attributed for any other groups as well. So what we're seeking tonight is, does the board want us to bring back for action and consideration to establish a cap? And is that cap going to be equal to the lowest cost plan or something different? So that's what we're seeking direction.
That has nothing to do with negotiations.
If the board takes action, we would then have to negotiate with our collectively bargained groups, CSEA, LUSG. We would also have to negotiate with LPPA, because those groups have less than.
That's the best pathway to take then.
That would be the pathway that would establish a cap for everyone.
I have a question for Mr. Young, Mr. Nava.
Yes, Mr. Porter.
Who decided on Western Advantage as being a benchmark?
We just showed that plan as.
No. Who decided that would be the benchmark for your cap amount, lowest cap amount? The board didn't. Who did? Who were the people involved?
I was involved with it. I mean, as the highest ranking official, I'd have to say that was a decision that I used as a baseline.
You didn't have a committee, you didn't have involvement or collaboration or anything from anybody else?
No.
Okay. Now, I noticed in this presentation that they put together, which is really great, I worry about the lines that we're drawing, because, again, I'm a board member, not an employee of Lodi Unified. Down at the bottom, advisory districts, it says it's including the 8.22 COLA in the total funds for bargain dollars, not percentages. We're getting into some shaky ground here, because we're looking at funded stuff, and I really struggle with with how this was put together, as I struggled with something that happened at our last board meeting, how that was put together, that we're not being more collaborative in how we approach things in terms of such an important issue as your health insurance and keeping our employee groups happy. I think this is kind of a bubble decision that bothers me. That's my comment. And I don't like this. I like the presentation. I just don't know if it's appropriate given how we have to do bargaining.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have one, Mr. Young, on the excess sick leave percentiles paid to date. That's the end of this presentation. It says it came about, tell me about the 6 days. How did it come about, the excess sick leave days?
Yes, I'm trying to find the information from the 90s, and that's not always the easiest thing to find. But I do know that was during a time when we had year-round education. I know it dates back, it's in the board policy, and it's existed long before even I arrived in 2001. I haven't pinpoint. We can continue trying to find exactly. The information that's been shared with me is either A, it's related to year-round education because administrators did work year-round.
Yes.
And second, if it's not that, it may be related to a cycle of negotiations where instead of compensation, they gave administrators excess sick leave days. Understand this, when it was created, it was a time that the state paid for those. But because PERS and STIRS were underfunded, they made some changes in the legislation that said anything above the statutory limit, which was one per month, you as a district are responsible for paying. Thus the reason the board or the district is responsible for those additional 6 days. So I have yet to be able to find all the details. I can continue looking and hopefully bring that back to you, but I have not located any documents that dictate exactly why it happened when it happened, but it dates back to the 90s.
Was this possibly negotiated?
Well, not with your administrators because they don't have the power to negotiate.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Because this, that's a lot of money there. The dollar value of $789,000, for those 6 days.
Correct. Remember, if they hold on to those excess sick leave days, then, and it happens with other groups as well, if you don't use it, it goes towards your retirement level when you retire.
But still the district is paying for it.
That is correct.
Yes. Well, I have a concern for that.
Okay.
20 years.
Yes, Ms. McFarland.
Several concerns. First off, we can't make everybody happy, and I think as a board, we know the difficulties in that. Secondly, is our goal to establish a healthcare cap, or is our goal to provide every employee with the opportunity to have zero healthcare? Because if we're using Western as the base, my concern is that it's not a viable base, because I wouldn't drive to Sacramento to a doctor, and I wouldn't want to. So is that our best option to look at it because I'm trying to merge the two and get them right in my head, and they don't add up together for me. I like the healthcare opportunity. I like the part of the equation that we're talking about, but then when you bring in the Western, it just doesn't work for me. And so to move it forward, both of those, if we're looking at two things at once, if you want to separate the issue and have a conversation, I'm willing to do that. But to do them simultaneously, it's rough. It's rough. And I don't know that if we looked at a different option, if that changes the base cost considerably, maybe this isn't something that we can cross this bridge at this time. However, I know that is the board's goal, to have the opportunity for every employee to have health care. So we're kind of we're at a cross. I think they're two separate issues, and they're getting caught in the middle for this board member.
Yeah, I think, Mrs. McFarland, members of the board, the most difficult piece is we're establishing a cap based on a plan, the lowest cost plan that PERS has in Lodi Unified. But we're talking about a cap. It doesn't require that the employee uses that. We tried to provide you the cost of other plans that are higher, but I thought the baseline of the lowest cost plan was the starting point. It's up to the board if it wants to consider a higher cost plan as the baseline. But that is something the board would need to decide, and we wanted you to understand the fiscal implications of that.
Ms. McFarland?
So counterpoint. I like where you're going with that. Where you lose me is Western is the example. If it was located local,
yeah,
and it was $900 or $500, I don't care what the cap is. But if it was local, I could wrap my head around it. So I can't wrap my head around it because it's in Sacramento.
Right.
Well,
and I just don't want to be,
yeah.
We can't keep everybody happy, but if we give somebody, and we have employees that come from a variety of areas, but if you're commuting out of Modesto and you take a zero-cost health plan and it's in Sacramento, I don't know what we do with that. But I don't think we're off. I think we're in the range of getting this right, but we need to get it right.
So what we could do is bring back to you multiple levels, and you ultimately could take action on the level that you feel comfortable with as a board. If that's what you are interested in, we can bring multiple levels, and the board can choose the one they want to take action on. We can provide as part of that action item where that specific plan provides the service, so you understand if it's in San Joaquin County and Sacramento County and Stanislaus County. The way it's built within CalPERS, they consider some part of the Bay Area group, some part of Sacramento group, but we would be happy to bring back a report for action that has those different levels and with an understanding of where those plans provide services for your consideration.
Thank you. I think that's a plan. Any comments from the board on that one?
Well,
Could we look
Yes.
at it?
Ms. Ball?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, the idea that separating the two is, I think, what is catching everybody's attention here. We're saying this Western plan, don't bring it in the picture. Give us a plan that's local,
Okay.
that's reachable, and what's the cost on it? And where does it help to employ everybody across the board? So I think that specific plan is what is the point of contention here.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander?
I just was looking at the idea of, not falling specifically on you, but looking at it from everybody's perspective, pulling this in. To me, when we're talking so few people that this would impact, it's kind of a moot point of just let's throw this out here willy-nilly. I feel like we have some work to be done on this, definitely.
Okay, thank you. All right, very good. Mr. Knaxton?
Yeah, I just want, my plans are kind of all over the map because I'm writing stuff down here, but first of all, some of the things that I heard is that this is just an attempt to offer another plan. And nothing is mandatory, but it's an attempt to offer free insurance or very, very low cost insurance. And if it sucks, as somebody most eloquently said, then maybe we should put more money towards other plans. So agreeing with what everybody else has said, I think we definitely need to do some work before we bring this back as an action item.
Sure.
Yeah, health insurance is a big deal, and it's getting outrageously expensive for all you guys, all of us that are, you know, we're all the same insurance plans you guys are on. I would like to see some way to get our medical insurance premiums down across the board. But, yeah, I know that's a negotiable thing, blah, 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 all that.
Okay, all right, Mr. Young, you got the board's direction?
Yes.
Okay.
If we're going to bring back an action item,
Yes.
it needs to be organized well and
Exactly.
provide options that are better suited for the employees of Lodi Unified School
Very good.
District.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's continue on with the agenda.
Dina and Peter, thank you. It was very knowledgeable.
What you had to work with that.
We have communications, comments from employee group representatives.
Good evening, members of the board, Desiree Wise, Mr. Young. It's so disheartening to kind of see your lack of concern or your lack of empathy regarding our concerns. The MOU that I was speaking of, I would think would directly relate to your plan in some way. And it's just so disheartening to hear just no answer. You know, I've had many conversations with Mr. Young, and he keeps telling me, just wait till July, just wait till July. We've talked about building our relationships with our bargaining groups, and I just, time and time again, it's just disappointing. It really is. The other thing that I wanted to respond to was Ms. McFarland's comment about not making everyone happy. I understand that. But CSEA is 1,500 people, and so is LEA. That's the majority. The majority of your people. All the while, our salary schedule still says $13 and some change. I mean, I would love to have, and I'm sure all of LEA and CSEA would like a second cap. Put $9,000 on our salary. That'll fix the minimum wage problem in a heartbeat. And then give me another option for some health care. I hate to say it, but it's just not fair. You guys are not, it's just not being equitable. I'm not discrediting the problem with healthcare. I'm not discrediting the concern with the principals, but that's what bargaining's for. And that's where this belongs, is at the bargaining table. The other thing, when you talk about looking at different options and bringing back this and bringing back that, that's the purpose of a healthcare committee. We've always, back in the day, we had a healthcare committee, and those are things that they would look at, and there would be different stakeholders on that committee. So when you say keep waiting for July, things are going to be different. Well, we're in July, and it's no different. Thank you. President Nava, members of the board, Superintendent Young, Lisa Lennon-Wilkins from Lodi Education Association. And Desiree said it very, very well, that LEA again is entering the school year without a contract. We presented our openers in the spring. They were accepted. We've been asking for bargaining dates, and we have not got any responses. And then we see a couple of things thrown at us during the summer. Hopefully, I think with the idea that it's going to go under the radar and no one's going to notice, that we want to start having our teaching materials, it didn't say library books, it said teaching materials, to be censored by a committee that is ultimately controlled by our new superintendent. And basically giving a raise to a very small group of people. But the cost is way significant compared to the 1,500 people in CSEA and the 1,400 people in LEA. Especially since they have been getting increases
on their base, on their total compensation, which includes health benefits, for all these years, since 2005, 20 years, almost 20 years. So again, yeah, I'm feeling that it's really unfair. I'm feeling that it is underhanded, and not the open negotiations we want. One of the things I noticed in here is that we look at the number of FTEs that right now it says below 30 teachers, but actually it's like 92 teachers. A lot of them are special ed. One of the reasons that we can't get teachers here, healthcare is one, but also people talk about how this district treats teachers. And this is an example of trying to do things underhandedly instead of working with us. I remember, like I said, being part of the medical plan when we switched from Keenan to PERS. And we had lots of conversations. We need to have those conversations again. And sorry, but total compensation, if you look at the pie graphs, teachers have been taking less of a compensation. A large group, we get less money. But if you look at the increase in the number of administrators and their chunk of the pie, that keeps increasing. That begs the question, are we top heavy? I think that's a question the board needs to look at. Are we top heavy? Because again, it's not fair. It's not fair that LEA has been the primary bargaining unit, and a lot of these other units have this Me Too. I know that LUSDA and the supervisory group, it's always a Me Too. So we go in and fight, okay, and everybody else benefits. That's not fair. That is, we go in and fight when you're willing to come to the table and actually talk. And because what we've gotten for the last few years, when we've tried to bring things up, has been, and I quote, Lodi Unified has no interest in talking about this issue, unquote. No matter what the issue is, not even paying benefits. We're trying to talk about student safety, about teacher safety, things like that. Standard remark. Lodi Unified is not interested in discussing this topic. So how do you think that makes teachers feel? You don't think if that gets around to other teachers? I don't know if you guys looked at the personnel report. We had a lot of teachers resign at the end of the year. We had quite a few, it was like 40. And this is the reason why. Because they don't feel that they're respected by the district, by their supervisor. They don't feel their supervisor is willing to work with them to solve some of the issues that they have at their local school site. And as a matter of fact, when they bring something up, they feel that they are penalized and retaliated against. When they say, hey, this is an issue, I've got some ideas how I can fix it. If that idea didn't come from their principal or their assistant principal or whomever they're saying it to, one, it's a bad idea, and two, I'm going to punish you for bringing this up because we don't want anybody to see the dirt underneath our rug. So I don't know what to tell you, but this should never have been brought to you guys without talking to all the bargaining groups first. And I feel really disrespected. My members feel very disrespected. And again, here's just one more way that you demoralize us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments from employees? Any comments from board members?
I do. Okay. I have have two things I want to talk about. One is I attended a conference, PLC conference, with Mr. Young. True Solution, was it True Solutions, correct?
Solution Tree.
Solution Tree.
PLC.
Thank you. PLC, what is PLC? Well, your previous superintendent put it out that she met every time in PLC groups. Maybe Mr. Young will explain the whole graphic for PLC for us.
Professional learning community.
There we go. Now, I attended this conference with him, and they had various breakout groups. And the professional learning community is a marvelous program. We are not that. And I had great conversations with Mr. Young. We each attended different sessions so we wouldn't overlap. And it was a wonderful, wonderful 3-day event. And I encourage all our teachers and administrators to attend. It's something that is really the way to go forward in terms of making sure all students are learning. That is their motto. And I had a great chat with Mr. Young up and back about what we're doing, what's going on, and I think it's going to take some time to head that way into a PLC. But I think it's incredible. And luckily, we have an individual that lives in Lodi that's one of the gurus of PLCs for math. And his daughter went to Lodi High, and I coached his daughter. And he is a fascinating individual, and hopefully he'll help us as we try to move into more professional learning communities. The other part is, it came up in Hot Topics, is Lakewood Schools. They have built a fence around the back of Lakewood School if you've been by. I had to go by because my constituents live in that area. And they are on the two streets. I think it's, I forget the two names of the streets now. My mind is like showed up late and everything's falling apart. I think it's Lakewood and Green something or other. I can't remember. And it's more than 4 people. It's a group of them whose backyard butts up to the backyard of Lakewood Schools. We are their neighbor. Well, we share, everybody thought we did, but we don't. We actually own the wooden fence that's in their backyard. Then we put in we just put it in, a metal fence, all right, that's 7 feet high. And they put slats in it. And I had to go into the constituent's backyard, take pictures. I said to Mr. Young, it's a foot higher than the wooden fence. Now the wooden fence lies on Lodi Unified property. We have to maintain it. It's in our bylaws by the board directors. We can't get to that wooden fence now because of the metal fence that's there. They've asked, they've called, they've directed, talked to me. I probably have 4 or 5 voicemails, 3 minutes long. They are retired ladies that are going after it, and they're going to be coming for us. Because when you go in the backyard, I will want it in my yard. Now, this gets back to communication. Did we ever meet with these people and tell them what we're trying to do? The answer is no. Did they even know that their fence was not in their property? Did they even know that the district's supposed to maintain the wooden fence in perpetuity? How do they get to the wooden fence now that they built the metal fence? During the 4th of July, I get the understanding of why the fences are all put up around the schools. There were a lot of people in the middle of Lakewood School, even though it's fenced. Go to any high school, you'll see kids throw their backpacks over the fence, have the strap, pop the gate, and they're in within 10 seconds. So we're trying to provide safety. Mr. Khan was said that he will meet with these people. I will be at the meeting and hopefully we can have resolution. These are good neighbors. They're our neighbors. We're their neighbor. We should communicate every time we're doing a construction project. We cannot live in our silo and not get out and meet the other people around us. So that was my comment about Lakewood Schools. I had another voicemail this morning. They are lovely individuals, retired, who've worked hard, and there's more than 4. I heard their comment, well, there's only 4. No, if there's 1, that's bad. If there's 4, that's even worse, because it's starting to multiply. So my statement about that is we need to take care of the people that are our neighbors at Lakewood School. It is not a pretty thing that we put up on. Thank you, Mr. Nava.
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Khan, Mr. Young, let's resolve this problem. Let's resolve it, please. Any other comments from the board? Okay, and we have any comments from the superintendent?
Nothing further.
Thank you, sir. Board Advisory Committee reports. Any reports for the Board Advisory Committees?
We met with the Facilities Committee, Sherry and I did.
Okay.
And we have 3 more scheduled coming up in the next couple weeks. And we will bring what the Facilities Committee comes up with in September meeting, September 5th meeting.
Okay. That's it? All right, thank you. Any other comments? Very good. I need a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Porter to adjourn, second by Ms. McFarland. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.